Welcome to Let's Chat, episode 6, out at the Western Force, home of the Western Force Rugby WA. With me, my co-host Graham Cooper. Mate, how are you?
Very well, mate. Yourself?
Good. Second live episode. How are you feeling?
Mate, a lot better than last week. I was quietly cacking myself last week.
A few nerves. That's all right. We've got a great show for us today. We've got the two captains from Cotton Soaks with us, the Battle of Broome Street. We're going to get to that later, but welcome, lads.
Cheers, thanks for having us.
Appreciate having us, mate.
Excellent. Thanks for taking the time on the Friday to come down. Right, Coops, let's get into it. Premier grade round 4 results, some cracker games, some not so good games. Let's start with Arcs and Curtin. We spoke about this one at length last week. This was the game for them to get a win on the board. The cellar dwellers, as I called them, probably a bit harsh. Curtin getting the win, 26-17, and it's fair to say they were pretty happy about it.
Yeah, mate, they're up and about. Obviously, Nick Chadwick's couple of intercept tries in that game got him over the line, and I believe some good D from them as well. So.
Is Nick Chadwick the fastest bloke in Premier Grade Rugby?
I think he has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tobias Hoskins, do you think you could keep up with him?
Absolutely not.
Yep, good answer. Like you said, the Curtin defence was good. Great to see. You never know, that could change a club. Hopefully Curtin get a few more wins on the board, so well done to the Goats. Next up, we did speak about this game last week as well, saying that we thought it was going to be close, and we were right. UWA just getting over the Coastal Cavs, 26-21. What do you reckon about that one?
Yeah, mate, like we said, the Coastal Cavs going down the weekend before and losing 2 close games previously. Obviously, coming to UWA is a pretty tough one as well. So to come away within 6 points of them was a pretty good effort. And obviously going back down home next weekend or this weekend, they're hoping to get a win on the board as well.
Yeah, I think they'll be pretty disappointed with that. 2 big scalps in the last 2 weeks they could have had. So, but it's good signs for the Coastal Cavs that they're there and thereabouts and can beat those good teams. Next up, Cottesloe, big win over Palmyra. This was my game of the round. I went down and watched this one. It was an absolute cracker. Cott got over the top, 27-23. Tobias, you were out there, mate. Really physical game in that first half. How was it? How was the win?
It was good, mate. It's in a shorter season, it's important to get those close wins, and we've talked about Palmyra probably being up there at the top end of this the table at the end of the season with a real young, enthusiastic team, and we knew they were going to come out firing, and they did, and we had to absorb a lot of pressure. But I was really proud of our boys and how we handled that and responded, with a couple of good tries and managed to absorb their sort of early enthusiasm.
Absolutely, and we'll speaking of Cottesloe's tries, we'll be showing that as our TMO clip of the week a bit later on. Probably the try of the year, well, definitely the try of the year so far, possibly for the season. It is an absolute corker. It's already had 80,000 views on Rugby WA Facebook and Instagram channels. It's absolutely flying.
Exactly.
You'll see that Hoskins was actually on the inside. Probably would have been a much easier try, but the fullback went himself, so it's good. Southern Lions took another big L against Nedlands, 60-5. Coop, Southern Lions are in dire straits at the moment. They need to sort that out.
Yeah, I think they're struggling for a bit of depth in their tight 5 this year down at Success. So they need to find, a bit of mongrel there. But it just shows, obviously, coming up against Nettie's no mean feat either. So those Nettie's boys, I think they're 3-3. Couple of the lower end teams. So when they come up against the boys on the other side of the table here, it could be a different story for them as well.
Agreed. And Associates took on Wanneroo in a comfortable win there, 38-0. Robbie, mate, interim skipper, how did that game go?
I went really well. Over the last 3 weeks, our momentum's been getting better and better and better, building up to this big clash on Saturday. And as each week, our opposition's got tougher and tougher, so glad to see we're able to pick up performances each week. Still killing ourselves in the penalty count. I think we've got 5 yellows in the last 2 games or 3 games, so need to change that up a bit for the weekend.
Yeah, Revere and your team.
Keep it going, mate. Just keep it going.
The headgear doesn't help.
Yeah, that's right. Cottesloe will be hoping for a few more yellows this weekend, I would have thought. West Scarborough get up with a good win over Kalamunda, 18-0. Interesting seeing Kalamunda not get on the scoreboard there.
Yeah, I think it could be credit to the youngsters down at Wests as well. They're a pretty gritty team for a young side. So to keep the Kalamunda forward pack to 0 is most probably a pretty good from them for them and the team going forward. So the Cala boys, hopefully they get home this week and get on the board. Absolutely.
And Joondalup in the last game of the round took the win 36-6 against the Numbats Perth Bayswater there up at HBF Arena. Clay Ewan apparently had a really good game, who's obviously come back from France through this COVID period. Very handy pickup for the Joondalup brothers. Seriously good footy player playing out in the wing. Perth Basie struggling to find their feet this season. Probably looking to play a few of the bottom end teams to get a few wins on the board and maybe build some momentum, I would have thought.
Yeah, 100%. Once again, struggling in that tight five. One of their standout players was Dante Tatafu, one of our academy boys, in the front row, but he needs a couple of those bigger fellas to help him out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we're going to move on to Super Rugby now. The mighty Western Force took on the Reds last weekend. Unfortunately, went down in a very, very good game. Once again, came out absolutely on fire, scoring probably 2 or 3 of the best tries of the tournament so far. Byron Ralston just gets better and better. I don't know how, but he does. Yeah. He is just an absolute gun. What a find. It was also nice to... Byron also played a really good game against the Reds where he was in the system for a really long time and the Reds never really picked him up or never really gave him the opportunity. And once again, the Force just showing that they're picking good players at the moment. So just needing that 80-minute performance from the team, though.
Yeah, I think that's the key there, Dave, is that second half, the normal Super Rugby teams are finding a way to win in those later periods. Obviously comes down with a bit of experience within your team and a couple of young guys in that Force team, I think, can only learn from the last 2 weeks. And hopefully this week against the Brumbies, they can play for the full 80.
Absolutely. That's a big game coming up. Just wanted to talk more also about... That was probably the most exciting game of Super Rugby so far as well. I thought both teams played a really good brand, but it was also, talking about the Reds, it was nice to see them. They were under pressure for that first 15-20, and just to see those young guys really step up and take the game, whereas I think previously that young Reds team probably wouldn't have stepped up in that position, so it was good to see that too.
Yeah, I think that, especially if we talk about the youngsters in that back row, your McWrights, your Wilsons, obviously big future of Australian rugby. Like you said, last year, most probably would have lost that game, but they really stood up, took control over the breakdown, took control over the collision areas and things like that. So, yeah, credit to them, but obviously credit to the Force boys for giving them a bit of a rattle as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to this week's game. Taking on the mighty Brums, they're in pretty good form at the moment. If the Force manage to get up here, it'll be a pretty bloody good win for them. A couple of changes in the side, a few interesting ones actually. First one I want to talk about, Nick Juice coming out of the side, Henry Tafu coming in. Apparently it's about sort of having a bigger body through that midfield, which I find interesting because I think Nick Juice has been really good.
Yeah, mate, Nick Juice, 6'4", I think he is. He is a big unit. I think potentially Tafu just is a little bit more abrasive with his carry and most probably in D.
Yeah.
Where Juice is most probably more of your ball playing 12, even though he is big. So.
Yeah. Agreed there. We all know Henry Tafu's a bull, so he'll be good running through some short balls there for sure. Nick Frisby comes into the side for his first game. Very excited to see this man playing professional footy in Australia again. Obviously, very good player for the Reds. Went overseas, has come back. It's going to be weird seeing him in a Western Force jersey. He was always a bit of a parrot on the field against us back in the day for the Reds, so it'd be good to see him on the other side of this. I would have loved to have seen him play against the Reds last week, but we might get to see that later in the year. But I think he'll be very good for us.
Yeah, Nick Frisby, obviously, I think he is a Wallaby, so brings that experience to the team. Obviously, Ian Pryor's out with injury, so he's going to be able to control where we go in the field and lead the forwards quite well, I think. So,
and the player I'm most looking forward to off the bench, Richard Kahui, the 2011 New Zealand Rugby World Cup wonder boy. According to a few of the guys over there, he's been training the absolute house down. Ultimate professional, still in cracking nick. I think he'll come on pretty early and show us what he's got. And apparently he's been already putting shots on at training as well. So it'd be good to see that too.
Yeah, 100%. Mate, big frame, obviously really experienced player. Bringing him on in the second half obviously can help the boys get through that second half period for the full 80. So, yeah, very key for us.
And great to see, once again, a whole number of WA players playing in the squad this week. Tom Sheminit comes in, the local Netties boy. Great to see him get a game. Hopefully he gets on and gets a few minutes. Tev Ferris has actually been really good this season. Just doing what he needs to do, but also finding himself out wide a little bit lately, which I don't mind because his ball in hand, he's been fantastic. So it's good to see.
Yeah, I think that back row's been able to get a bit more width in their game plan with obviously Stander having a couple of wide carries and also Stowers. So yeah, it's obviously a game plan that's working for us and getting a bit more width.
Speaking of the local talent, who's impressed you from the Western Force side so far, Rob?
Well, I guess Byron Ralston's the first one to spring to mind, but he's been, I guess, in the limelight. So I'm going to go with Henry Stowers.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on the stats, but I think last week he got like 23 tackles and 13 odd carries. So I think that's pretty impressive from Henry there.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been huge this season so far. And Tob, you've been involved, with WA Rugby for pretty much most of your life. Is it? It's good to see so many WA boys taking that pathway and then going up to Super Rugby now. And we've talked about it for a really long time, but it just seems to be coming to fruition a lot lately.
No, it's very exciting. I remember, obviously, the reason for the Force to coming here was to provide that pathway for these younger guys. And the guys like Tevin Ferris and Tom Sheminant that are playing for the Force now, probably when the Force came in, we were young boys, juniors that had a dream to try and play Super Rugby or professional rugby, and that pathway's been given by the Force. And it's great to see, so many young guys come through, and it's great to see the coaching and management staff to really give these guys a shot. In the past, I think we've signed guys into the squad and things like that, but we've never really given them the actual opportunity to play as much as we'd like. So it's great to see, Tevin and guys out there starting for the Force and playing 80 minutes and going well against, as you said, these Harry Wilsons and McWrights that have been in the system and played the Aussie 20s and things like that, but really stepping up to that level. So it's really good to see.
Yep, well said. So that's this Saturday, 5:15 Perth time, live, Fox Sports and K, the Western Force taking on the Brumbies. Should be a cracker. Hopefully the boys get a win. Let's move on. Oh, yeah, sorry, actually, before we move on, let's throw to our rivalries vid. The Force obviously have a rich history taking on the Brumbies, so we're putting together these videos every week where we get to talk to a few of the players, talk about the game, the rivalry, and just how much it means to them. Check it out.
It's going to be a big clash. But we're going to have to find it within ourselves to overcome.
There's no easy week in this competition, and Super Rugby always had that as the forefront of why it was one of the best competitions in the world, and this competition is no different.
The Brumbies, wow!
They are the measure of the competition at the moment, and they're looking really good, and they have been all year. So yeah, just a really good test for our squad coming up against the top tier team, I guess, in Australian rugby.
And I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but we don't have a very good record against the Brumbies on the road, especially in Super Rugby in the past.
Hopefully we can counter some of the past results.
We're very optimistic and positive about where we are and where we sit. We have the heart and the desire to do really well against quality opposition.
They rumble towards the line.
As the 2020 Western Force side, we're all facing new challenges each week. This Western Force side is in no way similar to any other Force side before. It's its own identity, it's got its own characters and its own talent within it.
Stowers giving it the Ralston!
We do have a lot of young lads in our team, but they have been working so damn hard and they are so keen.
He gets it down to McGregor!
They're going to be nervous, but I have confidence in them. I have confidence in their ability.
Every player's here for a reason. We don't just pick any player because they play the game. They're all talented, they all have a specific skill set and they can play to win. So it's pretty exciting to sort of tell those players just to go out there and play. There's not many opportunities in life where you just get to go out and play and enjoy the sport.
The gap opened up and the Force score.
Take away, obviously, the skills and the players and all that kind of thing. I think what we've got to play for here and, our backstory of getting back to this point in the last 3 years and the hard work and the toil that's come with it to get here is pretty moving. Everyone comes here with a goal to achieve, and we sort of got the first step of that, of being where we are now. I think, when you're hurting on the field or times get tough off the field, whatever it may be, you're going to dig deep and remember the path we've taken to get where we are, and the hard work that got us here.
Try to the Western Force, just giving them a little bit of a sniff for the comeback.
Well, that's going to be an absolute ripper. I really love that insight into the guys talking about the games there. Ian Pryor, wonderful piece of camera. And Marcel Braki, just whatever he says, you just have to listen. So they'll be pumped up for that game. They've had some and obviously a former team that Ian Pryor used to play for, they've had some pretty big games against them in the past sort of 10 years. So it'd be a good one to see the Force back against the Brums. Moving on, Premier Grade fixtures. Let's have a look. Coastal Cavs take on Wanneroo. This could be a good game. If Wanneroo turn up, this will be a cracker. But I think we'll see the Coastal Cavs get up.
Yeah, totally agree. Down at LARK Hill, obviously home game for the Cavs this weekend. They're going to try. I think they've already penciled this one in, after the last 2 weeks. And seeing Wanneroo's performance against Soaks last weekend, I think the Cavs will get up.
Yep, I like that. Kalamunda, the Bulls taking on Joondalup. This could be a good game. Hopefully Kalamunda can bounce back from that game last week. Joondalup playing some pretty good footy at the moment, but playing the sort of lower echelon of the table. So Kalamunda, been a good team the last sort of 5 to 10 years. So hopefully we'll see a better game from them this week.
Yeah, mate. Calla at the Bull Ring, hard to beat as well. It's a pretty hostile place to go and play footy. So if that tight 5 gets rolling and up and about, I think they'll be hard to stop.
ARK's taking on the mighty Numbats Perth Bayswater at HARRISDALE Pavilion. Don't know who's going to win this. It really does depend on who turns up. I think Basie should get the win, but I'd love to see ARK's turn up and play. They've got such a fearless leader out there in big Russ Burgess, which Robbie was just telling us off air before that. He shook his hand and said, "G'day, mate, Rob." And he's like, "Yeah, g'day, PG19," because he won the PG Hampshire in 2019, which I think is absolutely outstanding chat. But I think the Numbats will get up there.
Yeah, I think so. ARKs are just lacking a bit of depth and I think a bit of fitness as well. A couple of big guys are struggling after the COVID period. So, yeah, I think the Numbats will get up.
Diets for the boys, Coops reckons. All right. UWA taking on the Southern Lions at McGillivray Oval. McGillivray, what is it, Sporting Complex. UWA should get the win here. Probably a bit of a shake-up they needed against that game against the Coastal Cavs last week. Maybe just spark them back into gear. But they've got some guys playing some very, very good footy at the moment. Corey Thomas, former, pathway player, went over, has played in Japan for a few years. He's come back. He's been immense the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, he makes an absolute mess of the breakdown, obviously, as their number 6 in that team. And I think, that back row with O'Sullivan playing 7 is going to make that breakdown even worse for those Southern Lions boys on the weekend and get quite a few turnovers for them.
Absolutely. Netties taking on Palmyra. Very interested in this game. Netherlands have had 3 wins on the trot, but once again playing the sort of bottom 3 sides. This is their first real challenge of the 2020 season. Palmyra probably a little salty from that loss at home in front of their home crowd last week. This is going to be a good game.
Yeah, I think obviously Netties at home's always tough to get a win, but I think these Pally boys are going to want to go there and stamp their authority on the competition. Obviously, losing to Cot last week would have hurt them, but if they want to be title contenders, they have to beat Netties this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And West Scarborough Boars take on Curtin Uni out at Bennett Park there. I feel like that's going to be a dark day for Curtin. That West team looks like they're just getting better and better. I think the more time that young group plays, the better they'll get. So I think we'll see the Boars get the win easily.
Yeah, no issues.
No issues there. Now, match of the round. Let's have a chat about this. It's a big one. There has been a heap of media this week. Rugby WA really pumping this game up. And I think it's fantastic because the Battle of Broome Street's probably one of the best sort of derby rivalries that we have in the comp, and we want to see more of that. We want to see more clubs making more of a fuss about taking on their rivalry team. I know there's a great one between the Coastal Cavs and the Southern Lions. That's starting to get a bit of hurrah around it. But this game's massive. Two really good teams. Cot being the 2019 champions, Soaks 2018 champions. Premiership hangover, Robbie reckons, from last year. But this is going to be an absolute ripper. This could go either way. I'd love to back the Gulls in, but I think it's at home for Soaks, so who knows? It's 50-50.
Yeah, I think with this, doesn't matter where the teams are on the ladder every year. It's always a close one. Obviously, bit of feeling, bit of heat, bit of niggle always comes into the game. So they sort of are on par, I think, this year with who's going to win. It's a toss of a coin for me.
Well, let's have a chat. We've got both skippers here. Robbie, we'll start with you. Your home game, mate. Just tell us, how much does the Battle of Broome Street mean down to the boneyard for Soaks?
Oh, it's huge for us. I think I came down to Soaks in year 8. Ever since then, all I heard was "cot this, cot that." Not the most pleasant words, but a few of them won't say on air. I guess it's mainly the old boys driving it. I've never sort of been to a long lunch with the old boys and that without bad word being said about Cot, or good word being said about Cot. And then also on sort of a personal level, they've beaten us the last 2 games. As you said, Prems last year. Really good to test ourselves against one of the benchmark teams of the comp.
Absolutely. Tobias, you've probably played, 20 games against Soaks. Yeah, you've probably run a 50-50 win rate, I reckon, but this game really means a lot to the club, doesn't it?
Yeah, quite a few games at Soaks, and it's always good going down to the boneyard. It's quite a hostile crowd down there. You hear about any mistakes you make or anything they want you to do, so it's always exciting. It's weird. I sort of figured it out that whoever wins the Battle of Broome Street usually wins both games in the season. We only play each other once this time. Usually they go on to do pretty well in the finals or so. So not saying I'm superstitious about that, but it's always a big game for us on our season draw, and it's huge for us. And taking Palmyra last week and now moving to Soaks, probably 2 of the top 3-4 teams in the comp. We just want to keep building after Palmyra and going to these guys. But as Robbie said, I've mentioned earlier in the year as well, it's not just the 15, 23 guys that play Premier grade, it's the whole club. You're talking about your old boys, you're talking about the volunteers down there, you're talking about all grades from 4s up to 1s down there playing down Allen Park, and it's exciting, and hopefully we're getting a good crowd down there to sort of help drain out these boys.
Yeah, speaking of the crowd, it's Ladies' Day down at Soaks, Robbie. Is the club pumped and looking to get big numbers down there?
Oh, for sure. We've got huge numbers. I think it's, I'll do a bit of promotion here. I think it's free. There's no tickets being bought. Real cheap drinks. Good stuff to win in the raffle. Potential Soaks boys coming down doing the topless watering. So Michael, the Jeep Didamo, he's
yuck
in his Soaks gilet. So we'll see what happens. But no, it should be a really fun day. Good numbers out for the old boys as well. Hopefully the weather just holds up.
Yeah. Speaking of the media just previously, does this feel like one of the biggest battles at Broome Street for a long time?
Me and Rob were talking about it even before, just off air, that it almost feels like a bit like a final or a grand final for some reason. But it's been great, and we really appreciate sort of, I guess, Rugby WA and pumping this game up for us. We've had a lot of new guys down at the club. They don't, again, these new guys don't really understand exactly how much this game means to us and the rivalry. And obviously we're mates off the field, but when it comes to game time, it's all systems go, and it's just trying to really show these new boys actually how much it means to the club, and building their sort of expectations into the game, that it's not just another game here. This is, we're a kilometre away from each other, and we're going to rip in with all cylinders firing. And
I think, we've seen front page of the Western Suburbs Weekly, Rugby WA pumping it across all their channels. Harry Ayres doing a fantastic job there. Yeah, obviously, he loves his Soaks. He's a big Soaks man, but he's doing a fantastic job. Let's go a bit more sort of in depth in your teams here. Robbie, who's the sort of guy that's going to break open the game for you this weekend? And don't say Rivera.
It wouldn't be him anyway. So it's fine. We've got a really good 13, Christian Vaniveria. I think I'm saying that right. He's new to the club this year. Real young guy, hard and D. Really runs big thighs, as most of your Polynesian guys have. Just really strong runner. And for a big guy as well, his work rate and sort of fitness levels are through the roof. So I don't want to put a target on his head, but him versus Haino will be a pretty good battle. I think.
Yeah, Hoskins, you're playing at 12 this week. You looking forward to?
Yeah, it looks like
straight at your channel.
Running straight at me, so it'd be perfect. No,
what about you, mate? Who's the player going to break it up for the goals this week?
I think our best player for the first 3 rounds has been Cohen Mason. So our 7, come back from playing professionally in France. His family's moved here, and he's just been absolutely tearing up the competition so far, carrying defensively, turnovers. So I think if we get him moving and firing on the weekend, come breakdown time, and a few of his hard carries, it's really going to go a long way for us winning this game. So he's been my sort of pick for that. And not saying Ali Haney's been obviously pretty standout as well. So that 13 battle is going to be pretty fun out there. I'm just going to sort of pass the ball.
Ali Haney's another one that a great WA product. Probably should be in the 4 squad if I'm honest. He's an absolute gun. Runs the ball so hard, quick, strong. Never misses a tackle.
Good skills.
Great skills. Yeah. I just think that...
The full package, I reckon.
Yeah, agreed. And I think pretty soon the Force sort of, coaching staff will be looking at him, I think, bringing him in. And I don't think there's such a bad thing. I know he's, 25, 26 now? Yeah. I don't think that's a negative thing at all. I think that his body's sort of prepared now as a man. So I think he's going to have a big game. But, lads, thank you very much for joining us. It's going to be a huge game. Down at the Boneyard, 3:30 kickoff. But get down there, watch the 2s, watch the 3s. It's a cracker day down at Associates. They're going to put on a hell of a day, Ladies' Day. There'll be plenty of people down there. Get there early, otherwise you're not getting a park. I can tell you that. But it's going to be an absolute cracker, and that's the kind of rugby we want in Rugby WA. This kind of good feeling. I love it. Now, my favourite part of the episode, TMO clip of the week. Coops, can you tell us a little bit about this one?
That's as mentioned, Dave, it's a cracking try from the Cottesloe boys against Pally on the weekend. Obviously, 10 to 12, 12 to 13, or winger, wrap around, chip kick, bump back to the 15.
It's insane.
Another chip and chase, dive on the ball in the in goal to score the try. That most probably doesn't give it any justice what I've just done, to be honest. So we'll have a look at it. Here we go.
to try it. Now, Todd, before we move on, were you salty that ball didn't come on the inside to you?
100%, mate. And I promise you, I know I look slow. I was screaming for it. I really think I may have got mowed down by Chris Miller, but I would have tried to get there, I'm sure.
Yeah. Rob, what did you say when we were watching that clip, mate?
Oh, I just lost a bit of vision. I thought it was a big front row coming through the middle of
Head taped and everything.
The band has already started. These guys will be head-to-head on Saturday down at the Boneyard at Associates. Huge weekend of rugby. The Force kicking off at 5:15. Watch that. Get down to some community rugby across WA. It's happening in Perth. What a place to be at the moment.
Yeah, can't wait. Cracking weekend of footy, both Super Rugby and Perth community stuff. Even the juniors are out and about this week, so get amongst them as well. Get down to your club nice and early because there's home games everywhere.
Absolutely. That's it for Let's Chat. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.